Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. I want to give you all another live look out in New York City. One, because it's a beautiful skyline shot, one of my favorite in the U.S. But also, as we are discussing the very latest of border security, we also need to talk about the migrant crisis. Joining us live this morning to further explain is Fox 5 New York's Lisa Evers. Lisa, we always appreciate you joining us here on Live Now. I know this time last week we were discussing those debit cards that were being given to the migrants, and then recently finding out this week about those migrants that were living in those stores allegedly paying rent. What are you hearing on your end?
Well, Jeanne, a lot of things, and it seems now as if almost every day or every other day, there are more stories coming out about this spillover effect of this migrant crisis, which New York City Mayor Eric Adams said would actually doom the city at some point. That's probably the most dismal thing he's ever had to say about this. But in terms of the furniture store, there is a furniture store owner in Queens. He is immigrated here from Senegal about 10 years ago. He had dozens of migrant men from West Africa in his basement, sleeping on cots, sleeping on mattresses, and the floor of his basement, the basement of the furniture store there. Then it turns out that in the Bronx, he also owned another store, and he had this similar situation, these mattresses. And remember, it's cold here in New York right now. We're in the middle of winter. There's space heaters, which are very dangerous. There were extension cords, all types of things which the fire department felt was a fire hazard. So they shut down both of those locations. But you're talking over 100 men, at least 45 beds, about 70 men in each location, and some of them reportedly were paying up to $300 a month just to have a place to sleep. Now, what's happened this week is you're showing the video of the migrant crime wave that we've been experiencing here in New York. And it's reached a point where people are saying this has gone too far. It's very organized, as you see with the video right there with the moped ring. They had 62 incidents. They were being given orders by a man over WhatsApp of what to rob and what to steal. You see them stealing bags, they were stealing phones, and some of them were already arrested. But here's the problem. Once they're arrested, the NYPD, because New York City is a sanctuary city, has no liaison with ICE. Yes, ICE is very active here in the New York area, as you can imagine. They could not just pick up the phone as you would in many other cities in the United States and say, hey, we just arrested a guy for assault. We just arrested a guy for a robbery. He's been charged. We want to turn him over to you. He's also a repeat offender, which has been the other sore point to many New Yorkers, law-abiding New Yorkers here. We want to turn him over to you, but they can't do that in New York, New York City, because it's a sanctuary city. The Mayor Adams in the past has been very proud of the fact that this is New York. We can accommodate anybody. We can take in anybody. Early on in the migrant crisis, he said, come here, come to New York. We'll take care of you. And New Yorkers, quite frankly, are getting fed up with it. We had, as you mentioned last week, the $13 a day per person debit cards being given to the migrants. Many New Yorkers who are having to stand online at food banks every week are saying, wait a minute, what about us? That would certainly go a long way to helping us with our groceries. We're working, we're trying to make ends meet here. But in terms of the crime wave, we've seen assaults on police officers. We've seen shooting of a tourist in Times Square. Some of these are underage migrants. They're teens, part of these rings that they're being groomed into and attracted into or forced into by various means. We've seen other types of crimes going on. The migrant shelter, men's shelter on Randall's Island, they just decided this week that they would put in metal detectors there because there have been so many problems at that particular location. So it's been one thing after another, complete disregard for the law. And a lot of times they felt like, okay, if they were wearing masks, if they were wearing hoodies, if they had their faces covered, there was very little way to identify them. And because they came across the border, basically the open door that is the southern border of the United States, the southwestern border, they came across, there's no fingerprints, there's no type of ID, there's no type of any type of identification like that. So the police have really had to do a lot of extra work to just even try to figure out who are these individuals. So they arrest them, they indict them, but they can't if it's not a bail eligible crime, which some of these, believe it or not, still are not in New York City and New York State. they have nowhere to put them or send them because we are a sanctuary city. So this week, Mayor Adams said, listen, I think it's time. I love the concept of a sanctuary city. I'm not saying end it, I'm saying amend it. And he proposed to the city council that they have a liaison with the local ICE office here so that if there are these repeat offenders, which many of them are, even the young ones, the underage ones, is if have a liaison with ICE on these repeat offenders, have a way so that NYPD can just pick up the phone and or send an email and say, listen, we have these guys here, they're at such and such a precinct, can you please come pick them up? ICE comes and picks them up as they do in other cities, and then boom, that's it. They're out of New York. New York taxpayers, which are people are just going crazy over the amount of taxes here that people have to pay, how expensive everything is. New York taxpayers don't have to pay to house that person in a city or county jail, feed them, house them, and continue to give them whatever benefits package they have as migrants. And they can be gone. Some of them might come back, but they will definitely be gone for a period of time. But more importantly, the message will be sent wherever they came from. The crime is not being tolerated. What we have now, Gina, is we have criminal rings. They're actually going into stores with specific orders of what they need to steal, shoplifting it, then getting on buses, taking it down to Florida, selling it in Florida, and then coming back here in New York. They don't dare stay in Florida because they know if they get caught for these types of crimes, these armed robberies and these assaults and these purse snatchings and phone snatchings and chain snatchings in Florida, they're going to end up in jail and they're going to end up deported because they will have a liaison with ICE to send them back. So it's just every day it seems there is just another development of signs of just how impactful this migrant crisis has been in New York City and what it's doing to the daily quality of life. And it's not even, yes, we've seen some of the neighborhoods, you talk about the furniture store, well, that impacted the residents. How did the authorities find out about it in Queens? There's millions of people in Queens. They found out about it because of all of the activity, people living next door, people living in the neighborhood saying there are men coming and going, dozens of men coming and going day and night. There's a lot of activity. In the Bronx, they saw same thing with a lot of e-bikes parked out front. They're like, wait a minute, what are they doing here at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, coming and going, a lot of noise, a lot of disruption, not to mention the safety issues. And Janae, as you know, we've been having a big crisis here just with these e-bike battery fires. So there's a lot of concerns here, and it's just the mayor seemed to be at his breaking point. City council saying, no way, we're not changing the sanctuary city statute on political grounds. A lot of New Yorkers, just general public, talking about this, saying something has to be done because it is just deteriorating. And it's not even a question of what neighborhood or if you're living in a certain neighborhood. This is visible. The signs of strain are everywhere in the city. You stop at a stoplight and you'll see a woman selling candy bars or selling fruit or selling bottles of water. A lot of them have little babies. I mean, babies that are not even a year old tied to their backs as they're trying to make ends meet here. So what are we really talking about? Is this really humanitarian? Is this a humanitarian way for us to even treat individuals like that? So a lot of questions being raised about this, Janae, but the big thing, people have just, after the debit cards and just seeing the crime and then knowing that a lot of these people committing the crime are repeat offenders, the mayor goes, they don't deserve to be in our city. And a lot of New Yorkers are saying that's common sense. If they're breaking the law, they shouldn't be here in the first place. But if they are here breaking the law, they definitely should not be allowed to stay. So it looks like it's going to be another stalemate for the mayor moving forward on this one, Janae.
Lisa Evers with Fox 5 New York. We always appreciate your expertise and dialogue. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Live Now from Fox to give us all of the latest developments of the migrant crisis. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Janae.